Welcome to the Inside UMSL podcast. I'm your host, Nate, and I'm here today with Holly Sheilley, the Executive Director of the Athletics Department at the University of Missouri St. Louis. Hello, Holly.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Actually, you beat me to it. I was going to ask you right after, but you're much faster than I am.
Yep, I was ready.
Yeah, you were. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. I'm excited to get to know you a little bit on this podcast, so we're just going to jump right in. Can you share a bit about your background, where you grew up?
I'm from Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay.
And you know, because I said Louisville right, you have to have a little bit of rocks in your mouth to get to Louisville. But I am the one of four children.
Okay.
My brother and I have a twin brother who is 6'7", and then I have an older sister and an older brother.
Okay, so you both are the collective babies of the family, you and your twin brother.
Yes, that we are the collective babies.
How does it feel to have more than one person be the youngest in the family with you?
Well, he doesn't think he's the youngest. He feels pretty sure I am. So he sees himself as a middle child.
Okay, so then how much sooner did he make it out?
5 minutes when I kicked him out of there. Yeah.
You kicked him out. That's why.
That's right.
That's a great way of approaching it. You kicked him out. So you're from Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's your journey that you took to get all the way here to UMSL?
Yeah, so I went to college at Asbury College, which is in Kentucky. It's in Wilmore, Kentucky, small town outside of Lexington.
Okay.
Played volleyball, basketball, and softball while I was there. Got a degree in physical education and health. And from there, went and got my master's degree. I was a graduate assistantship and at Eastern Kentucky University. And then when I left there, I was really wanting to actually get a job like most people, right, at that point in their life.
You know.
But I had a really cool opportunity. It was the 96 Olympics in Atlanta, and I got asked to be with the Chinese Olympic team and be an ambassador with that team. So I got to be with them around the Olympic Village, go to all the games, and so that was a really cool experience. Left that at the end of July, 1st of August, and took a position at Lindsey Wilson College, an NAIA institution in Kentucky, whose mission is really to service Appalachia, and took that position, coaching both volleyball and softball and teaching. And then I had an opportunity during that point. I taught for 7 years, and so I could take a sabbatical, and I was working on my doctorate at University of Louisville.
Wow.
So I thought, well, this would be a great opportunity, take my sabbatical, get, a lot of credits in at the same time. Went to Louisville to do that and was offered a position at the University of Louisville during my sabbatical. And my mother had just been diagnosed with Parkinson's, and they did not give her good prognosis. So it felt like the right decision to not only take the position at the athletic department at U of L, but also to be able to be back in Louisville.
Yeah.
And so I stayed there to about 2010, and then took a position at the NCAA in championships in Indianapolis. And then from there went to Transylvania University in Lexington, which is the most recent position I was at, and was there for 11 years as the Vice President of Athletics. And then have been here since September 18.
That's really awesome. Now, you said a lot of stuff here, and I want to try to unpack some of it that I found very interesting. First of all, you played 3 sports, right?
I did.
Volleyball, softball, and basketball. What were your positions in those 3 sports?
In volleyball, I was an outside hitter.
Okay.
In basketball, I was a guard, and in softball, outfield.
Wow.
Yeah.
And are there any overlaps in the seasons of those things?
Oh, there's absolutely overlap in the seasons. I don't think it's unfortunate probably today that students cannot do that.
Mm-hmm.
They can't even do it in high school anymore because of how they've made their seasons.
Yeah.
It's very discouraged. People, play one sport year round. I think that's why, I know this is not the purpose of why we're here, but that's why there's so many more injuries in my mind, because you don't train different muscles, and so you get overuse injuries. But
yeah, that makes sense.
I was really blessed to be able to play all 3, and so glad I got to.
And then 1996, working with the Chinese Olympic team, where were those Olympics?
Atlanta, Georgia, so right here in the U.S., and being in the U.S. was so cool and special to have an Olympics, that I could go to, but also just to have the inside passage to do all the games. And obviously, as a recent graduate, I did not have the money that I could have gone if this had not been an opportunity. So it was really, really cool.
So it says in my notes that your mom wanted you to play sports just as much as your brother.
Yeah, my mother was not a sport person at all. I don't think she never wanted to do sports, but she was really into equality, and she had such a grace and love about her that she was going to fight for me just as much for what I loved as she did my brothers and sisters. And so even though you would not see her as someone who'd been extrovert, she was the first one to be quick to be like, yeah, if he's going to play at his tall height, you're going to have to take her too. And so, even though I didn't know it at the time, later I learned how very special it was to have a mother who wanted me to do the things that I wanted to do.
So what all sports have you been able to coach?
I only coach volleyball and softball, even though I probably loved basketball as much as those two. It just is the way it worked out. Unfortunately, back then there wasn't a sports management degree.
Okay.
And so a lot of people who wanted to go into coaching did what I did, which was get a physical education degree. But the interesting part of doing that is, especially in my role now, I actually know a lot about a lot of sports. I know the rules of the sport. I know how it's played. I know playoffs. I understand that. So even though I didn't get to do any sports management till I did my doctorate, my undergraduate actually came into quite handy through the years.
So you've been involved with several NCAA committees, including the Minority Opportunity and Interest Committee and the Board of Governors. I know nothing about these things. Could you explain them to me a little bit?
Sure. So, a lot of times the NCAA takes heat. You'll hear in the news, oh, the NCAA did this to us. And I always kind of laugh because we are the NCAA. It's a membership organization. So whatever happens actually came for the membership, which is all the institutions in all three divisions. So as part of a membership group, there's different levels of councils and committees. So, for example, Transylvania I just came from, the highest committee is Division III Management Council and Division III President's Council.
Okay.
And I was on the Management Council, and I became chair of that council. And because I was chair, I was also on the NCAA Board of Governors. It oversees all three divisions. So it's at the top, it's an 8-member board. It has one representative from D2, one from D3, and then the rest are D1. So it's in one independent. So it really was an interesting piece to be a part of that Board of Governors for the year I was there. Charlie Baker had just taken office. The lawsuit that the NCAA is now heavy into, the House settlement, there was lots of discussions about what do we do about the NCAA is sued so many times over and over for name, image, and likeness.
Yeah.
And so it was really interesting to hear the different perspectives, not only of Division II and III, but Division I, because there's a lot of disparity between your research Division I or big time Division I and an SEC or one of those, and then someone who's in a what would be called a lower Division I institution or conference.
In a recent interview, you stated, athletics serves as a powerful vehicle, not only for transforming the lives of student athletes, but also for enriching the communities we are proud to serve. This is the essence of what makes our mission so impactful and meaningful. Where did you get that quote from?
I think from my soul. To be honest, I really feel like that's what it's supposed to be about. I do think student athletes are supposed to be students first, and that that's the one thing. If you look at the House settlement, and we're going into paying athletes at the Division I level money that's pretty astronomical. That's away from the amateur model, and I don't think I can grab hold of that model. I really think the purpose of education is to be a student and to be an athlete. And then I think secondarily, really athletics is co-curricular. It's an opportunity to learn all those skills that actually help to promote you in life, and leadership, communications, community. If we look over history and the times that student athletes have stood up for something, it actually has ripple effects across our nation. And I think that's a huge, I say it's a privilege. It's a privilege to be an athlete. I say that to student athletes, but don't take that lightly. Like you have a obligation here, not to stay silent, to really stand up, because people do watch what happens in the athletic arena. I can remember 9/11. Unfortunately, I think a lot of us can remember it like it was yesterday. but the first things that started back for the nation was sports. And I think because there's something about sports that helps to unite us as a nation, it also sometimes helps to not unite us, but we have the power to turn that either way. And so I want students to understand the power that they have to do right.
And how do you do that? How do you foster an environment that kind of molds the academic and the athletic together with students that you're over?
Yeah, I think it's about accountability and making sure that the things that I praise or I champion are actually the values we want to uphold, right? If I say, hey, we had a Final Four team, I'm so proud, but that, half of them dropped out because they didn't finish classes, that's a mixed message to me.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important to make sure that what I say and what we do actually is our values and what we celebrate. And we shouldn't be celebrating things like the example I just gave.
Yeah. So what is it that drew you to UMSL, and what excites you the most about being able to lead the athletics program here?
Yeah, I was at a point, I left a really good place. I think they're headed in the right direction. We had won a national championship, had a lot of firsts, but it was time for me to have a new challenge. And I wanted a place where I felt like the top of the leadership is ready to go. I'm not very patient, and I'm the first to admit it, and I just want to go, you know. I want to, I just want things to go.
Yeah.
And so I want people who are also in that same regard. And so when I met the chancellor and I met Reggie, some of the other leadership team here, I'm like, these people want to grow this place. They want to continue to excel. It was also very attractive to me that they are passionate about getting education to everybody and to places perhaps in St. Louis and other states that don't have the ability to afford education. And so that's really a heart of mine too. As a first generation student, my parents didn't have the opportunity to go to college, and they made a way for all four of us to go, and I want anything I can do to help that for other people. I want to do it.
You have a personal motto of don't sacrifice the permanent at the altar of the immediate. Can you expand on that for me a little bit?
Yeah, when I was a teenager, I heard that quote, and it has really resonated with me. How many times it's, easy, you think, oh, this will be an easy win. I can do this, but the long-term implications are not a win. And so it's really just about kind of looking through everything through that lens of what decisions do I make, and will they help the long term, or is it only for the short term? And I say to a student, and I say this, I think in my entire career, I use this quote almost every time I meet with a student group, beginning of the year, because hey, you might think you're going to fit in this night, you're going to go out drinking, and it's not going to affect your performance. Don't sacrifice that. Like, really think about the permanent and what this is going to do to yourself, your team, your university. And I think if you look at things through that lens, it makes you make different decisions.
So the college athletics experience has changed in the last several years. How do you encourage student athletes to balance those short-term goals with their long-term successes, similar to the previous quote?
Yeah, I think, part of it is, I think when a student gets on campus, they think, wow, 4 years is a long time. And then before you blink, they're graduating.
Yeah.
And so I think it's about talking to them every opportunity we get about, okay, yes, your sport and how you perform is important to you, but your next career choices are important. And, when they leave an institution that I've been involved with, I want the culture to be one where they say, you know what, if I had to do it again, I'd choose this institution, this coach, this program, and I want it to be a transformational experience. That's what I was afforded and able to do, and, the coach that I had, the athletic program I was involved in, changed my life, and I want that for other student athletes. My staff was talking last week, and some things that we're going to be doing in this next semester, we're going to have a resume and writing session for them all, networking session, bring in some different career opportunities for them to hear from people, do an etiquette dinner. I think those are all things, and one of the great things about athletics is I can require them to go to things that they may not think is important in their life because, I kind of hold the key to them being able to practice and play. Yeah. But you hope that by the time they get a senior, they're like, oh yeah, this is, Holly had something planned for us, or the department had something planned. It's got to be something good and worth our time. And so I hope that there's a moment that they say, hey, they're setting us up for long-term goals by putting these things in front of us.
Yeah. How closely do you work with students?
You know what? I really try, and it's hard. The one thing I didn't count on, I just forgot. After 11 years at my last institution,
Yeah.
I got a lot of students to learn.
Yeah.
But I try to go to games. I go to all the games, home games, but I always try to sit near maybe a student so I can get to know them or coaches better. I go sneak into practices, and when they're taking a water break, hey, I saw you, last week, great shooting, or just to build those relationships. Probably one of the most surprising things, and I haven't had this happen in my career, and I really sincerely mean this about UMSL, the students have, as soon as I got here, without a coach being around, I've had numerous students come up and introduce themselves to me.
Wow.
And say, hey, I'm so-and-so from the basketball team or softball or baseball, and that has been really awesome to watch, which means there's coaches and parents behind the scenes who've done a really good job with their young person, that those people have the confidence to already do that.
That's amazing that they're just walking up and saying, hey.
It is. And, today I think more so than ever, because of the phone, people are so used to not even looking up when you come down a hall.
Yeah.
So the fact that they would stop what they're doing during the day and come to say hello to someone who, they don't have to say hello to me, but to do that and introduce themselves has been really a neat experience.
Yeah, it speaks a lot to the quality of character here.
It does.
So for prospective student athletes, what do you think makes UMSL stand out, and why do you think they should consider UMSL?
Well, the one thing that I can say unequivocally is the athletic staff is amazing. When you take a job, you just like they saw me from the outside, right? You see me for 30 minutes and then they decide, the coaches have that opportunity to go yes or no, I guess. But getting to know them and watching them, we're really blessed to have the staff that we have. I think if you're looking for an institution where the coach will care for you and the athletic department will care about your success, not just as an athlete, but a student, I think UMSL is a really good fit. I've been really impressed by the faculty I've met and the new programs that they have started here on campus, and just a willingness by the campus to continue to talk about how can we elevate the experience of all our students here. Not just our student athletes, but all our students. I get to interact actually with quite a few students from the sports management department.
Okay.
And, the program that they have here, I think, is phenomenal. And I say that coming from University of Louisville has one of the best programs in the country. And I actually think that what we do here is close up to that for an undergraduate experience.
Really?
Yeah, I really, really do. I'm very excited about anything I can do with that department right now. But that's not the only department.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of what you see across the board. And so I think if you want an opportunity for people to really, care about you and your success, this is a great fit.
So you spoke a little bit about what you're excited about coming up because you're fresh, brand new here. What are some other things that are exciting you about what you hope to accomplish at your time here?
Yeah, I think the athletics is awesome, but it's a hidden gem on campus.
Yeah.
I don't think that most of campus knows what they have over there. Just the location is a little bit on the, outer edge, not on purpose, just the way the landscape here landed athletics. And so I think part of what I'm really looking forward to and really putting my energy into is how can we market and promote ourselves to our own community? How can we kind of, shout our own praises?
Yeah.
And not to take away from it, but say, hey, I know this student just did great in your class. Did you know she came here not only for your academics, but for athletics? And so I want that message to be really across campus. I want them to be proud of what we do in athletics and want them to come to games and enjoy the great things going on.
That's really cool. So what advice would you give to young women who would like to pursue a career in college or professional athletics? I
would say to them, spend the time now. I'm always delighted to sit down with a student and talk about my own journey, how I can help them in their journey. I think one of the things that's probably a negative about women sometimes is people hold on to power and they don't want to give the playbook out. I don't want to be that person. I want to be someone that helps to empower women and give the playbook out and helps to set them up to get in the door. And so I think it's really putting yourself out there to volunteer, to do internships, and to learn from other women.
That's really awesome. All right. So you're fresh moving to St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
What is the most interesting or exciting thing about being here in St. Louis so far?
Oh, wow. St. Louis actually reminds me of Louisville in some ways. I think there's some things that are similar, but there's a lot to do in St. Louis. I have not done nearly as enough eating at great locations that they have here, so I got to get that on my list. But I have, there's also some just different things. This whole thing of trick-or-treating and saying a joke kind of threw me off a little bit. They don't say trick-or-treat. They tell you a joke when they come to the door.
They don't trick-or-treat?
They do trick-or-treat, but when they come to your door, in Kentucky, they would say trick-or-treat.
Yeah, like normal
Here,
people.
they tell you a joke, and the kids do. And so that was a new one for me.
What was your favorite joke that you got the whole night?
Well, honestly, we had no kids show up at our door, and that was a disappointment because I was all set for this joke thing that someone had told me earlier in the day. So I did get, I asked the other coaches the next day and staff, okay, tell me your jokes because I didn't get to hear any.
Yeah.
And they were pretty funny. And even some of the staff who were from St. Louis could remember the jokes they told when they went trick-or-treating as a kid. So that's been kind of interesting.
That is interesting. I've never heard of that. Does this also mean that you have a lot of leftover candy?
No, I didn't buy it because I'm afraid of leftover candy and what happens. So we had purchased, maybe that's why we didn't get any kids. We had purchased Welch's fruit snacks and popcorn balls because I'm like, that's a little more healthy. And so if it's left over, so thank God that's the route we went since it was left over.
Yeah, like as an adult, I'd be very thankful for the gummies and the popcorn.
Yep.
But as a kid, I might be just a little disappointed.
I know. I thought about that too, but we didn't have any, so.
It all worked out.
That's right.
Yeah. A joke. I would do great here in St. Louis for trick-or-treating, telling jokes. So I have those are all like the questions about your backstory and everything. And these last few questions I have here are just some fun ones, just to pick your brain a little bit. So the first one is, what's one book, movie, or TV show that you think everybody should experience at least once?
There's a book, and I'm going to forget the name, but it's Malcolm Gladwell, who I'm a big fan of. He does podcasts, he does book, but he does a book. And it's sort of in the vein of his revisionist history. But when you listen to it on Audible, it's actually in the people's voices. And it talks about our country and the things that we could have done differently and how did we end up the way it is. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of it. So that would be one if I can remember the name. And I don't know about a movie. Yeah, I don't know about that one.
We'll take just the book. That's totally fine. It's
one
of the three. So that was perfect. You answered it exactly as it needed to be. If you could spend a day as a student in any department, which department would you pick and why?
Oh, I for sure pick athletics.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I think any opportunity to see what you're doing through their eyes and how we could do it better would be what I'd want to do. Plus the opportunity to play again, I would for sure take that on any day.
Yeah. So you don't play as much anymore?
Nobody tells you when you're, I don't know, that age that, you didn't really pick a lifetime sport in what you did.
Yeah.
I do have active hobbies, but and it's not volleyball or softball or basketball. It's hiking and those type of things. So,
have you started to pick up pickleball yet?
Oh yeah, I love pickleball.
Oh, I love pickleball too. Man.
Yeah, it's a great sport.
Yeah, are you really good at pickleball?
In my mind I'm great, but in reality probably not so much.
That's fantastic. What kind of paddle do you use?
I can't remember the name of it's actually a pretty popular paddle. It actually feels a little bit like sand grit on the outside of it. It's supposed to help you be able to make a good spin off of it.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Man, I have the, it's like a Wilson paddle. It's a longer one, so I can reach for the ball a little bit better. That's my thing. Okay. What's a hobby or an interest that you have that students might be surprised to find out?
I don't know if they'd be interested or excited or surprised. I mean, I really love travel, and I really love active traveling. So I like to go hiking, go to national parks, biking. I mean, one of the best experiences, I went to Glacier National Park
Wow.
and got to bike going to the Sun Road. So those type of things I really love.
That's really cool. And then personally, what's a piece of advice that you have gotten recently that you think has been really impactful on you for the season that you're in?
Yeah, that one's hard. I don't know if you, probably my voice a little bit. After losing your parents, you feel different about life.
Yeah.
And I would just say, don't have any regrets. I don't have any, and I'm so thankful I don't.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people in life, I hear them say, I have regrets. I wish I'd have done this. I wish I'd have done that. And mine is don't have regrets.
I like that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So those are all the questions that I have here. It has been super interesting talking to you. I love your story. Thank you so much for joining me.
Awesome. I've enjoyed talking to you too.
Thank you.